Hello and welcome back to part 2 of exploring the world of Equestria at War. In this episode, we'll exploring the lore of Griffonia, starting all the way back to before the lunar banishment in BLB. Some pony tribes migrate over the channel to northern Griffonia during this time. Over several thousand years, they spread across the north and arrive in the east, where they encounter griffins. After centuries of tribal warfare, the ponies settle in the riverlands. Northern and eastern ponies in Griffonia become separated. The ponies remaining in Equus migrate south, fleeing from the Wendigos, and lose contact with their eastern relatives. 600 BLB, or before lunar banishment. King Artigos Featherin of Sparlios establishes a vast realm stretching from Ramau to Midoriya, being the first griffin who comes close to unifying griffin kind. After his death, his successors fight each other, and the kingdom fractures into many successor states, most notable ones being Carthenia and Tingia and Ramau. This one being a very tiny nation that exists to the modern day of the game. And this one also being a super tiny nation that survives to this day in the game. As you can tell, some of the early empires just barely exist now, apparently. The Minotaur of Confederation of Asturian is founded on this island of Canorgio Spiti by Aster, as he leads his people away from the tyrannical rule of a pony monarchy in Imbusia. In 453 BLB, one of the splinter realms of the kingdom of Spalius, Equestria, is conquered by the northern Wingbard and Falcorian tribes. They eventually carve out their own nations, Wingbardi and Falcor, which become bitter rivals for the centuries to come. And we can tell that from the game. 321, the High Kingdom of Wittenland reaches its zenith and the Golden Age, ruling much of the riverlands from the southern coast to the northern mountains. However, soon its slow decay and stagnation begins. Most of them seem to have some time where they were the ones in control of the riverlands. Well, like 3 or 4 of them do. In 66 BLB, Grand Prince Blessed Sword of Lake City defeats the Strategos and Tigas of Nimbusa as the Battle of Cherone, eliminating the last obstacle in his way. The River Empire is founded afterward and dominates the Riverland. After lunar banishment, 100 ALB. The Etrurian Order is founded in northern Griffonia to prevent the return of the undead menace, and the First Aquilian Kingdom forms. In 353 ALB, the subjected riverbanks griffins of Zapzia revolt against their overlords in Jazrograd, now known as Lake City. Unrest spreads, and soon the conflict becomes a full-blown civil war, with the former subjects of the River Empire seeking to break free. King Hayseals II of Lake Pony Slayer restores the King Wittenland, leads a revolt against Lake City, and hires deer mercenaries from a distant land. After the deer help him drive out the Lakish occupiers, he grants the southeastern peninsula as a reward to the mercenary captain named Harold the Trotter, who founds the permanent settlement of Osterland. At 357 ALB, it is the end of the princely civil war in Jazrograd. The provinces of Rajograd, Wittenland, Imbusia, Bakara, and Zapzia gain independence. This marks the end of the United Riverlands. The Griffins of Zapzia formally announced the establishment of the Kingdom of Zapzia. With the end of the princely civil war, Osterland's contract was over. A series of strong leaders break fully away from the Kingdom of Witland, establishing an independent state. The Order of the Knights of Victorious is founded by the Archon. In 437 ALB, Meanderpool, an equestrian explorer, journeys across Griffonia to meet a legendary lost tribe. She discovers Jazrograd, meets Grand Prince Blightblossom, and reestablishes communication between western and eastern ponies. In 559 ALB, the Battle of Marathon, the invading forces of the Caterini kingdom are defeated by the Nimbusian armies, led by Strategos Manatidas, driving griffins out of the riverlands for a decade. Which, this one would later become the Caterin Principality, and this is, of course, New Pisa. In 569 ALB, the Battle of Thermopylae, which is actually a historic Greek battle. Yeah, the Battle of 300, that famous one. Everyone knows it. Even though, honestly, the Greek Athenians and their navy put in a lot of work that are not talked about at all. But anyways, a group of 300 Nubians led by Strategos Leandazes. Also, it wasn't even 300, it was 300 Spartans, but there were plenty of Athenian soldiers that fought with them. Sure, they weren't as famed for their battle prowess, but there weren't just 300 people. But anyways, held an army of griffins for 3 days, long enough for the river ponies to evacuate to the eastern mountains. Leonidas dies in the battle. 579 ALB. After many years of instability, the kingdom of Zapzia is dismantled. Hetman General Borzhanitz takes control. Gradually, the leader of Zapzia simply comes to be known as Hetman, and the kingdom is forgotten. The Zapzian people come to be known as the Zapzian host. And host pretty much seems to mean horde. In 649 ALB, Columbus founds a new colony in southeast Griffonia called New Maryland. The land is sparsely inhabited by griffins and infested with monsters, but there's a great deal of opportunity for trade with the eastern griffin realms. First pony settlers from Equestria arrive. This was also in the one about Equus as well, because this matters to both continents. Woo! In 673 ALB, New Maryland settlers and the Duke of the Duchy of Toulouse signed an official treaty where the land in what is today Hoofsplain is ceded to New Maryland in exchange for a large amount of bits. The two parties agree on the border, which has remained unchanged to the present day. Also, in the Equus section. In 704, Grover I becomes the king of Griffinstone. I mean, him becoming king of Griffinstone isn't canon to the show, but Griffinstone, canon to the show. Finally, the first thing that's actually canon to the real show in this section. Yeah, as I thought, not going to be much canonicity to the show in Griffonia compared to Equus. In 705, Grover I defeats the kings of Aquileia and Lombardy and unites most of Griffonia with the power of the Idol of Boris. Idol of Boris is also canon to the show, so there's that at least. He becomes the first Kaiser, Emperor of the Griffonian Empire. In 713 ALB, the Duchy of Cloudbury, now the Griffonian Republic, is established by Albert I of House Pluminjar. Of course, they were a monarchist nation at that time, and the Griffonian Empire. He unites the fractured counties of the north and bends to the knee to Grover I, securing imperial rule in the north and giving the empire a stepping stone into the isolationist kingdom of Edina. Its king signs a treaty with the emperor instead of resisting him, becoming a nominal vassal with a considerable autonomy. In 728 ALB, University of Ramau is founded by Grover I of Griffonia. In 747 ALB, Emperor Grover I famously crossed the Creeper Mountains, heralding the beginning of the eastern campaigns. The principalities had expected him to attack from the north or south, and were completely caught by surprise. The Principality of Lucia and Prywinian principalities are soon beaten, and they bend the knee. The Kingdom of Asturian, which formerly possessed the Creeper Mountains, protests the Emperor and demands him to cede them back. In response, Grover I destroys their mainland army and seizes their coastal states, later turning them into the county of Cynoslia. However, he lacks an efficient fleet and is unable to attack them in the islands of the Minotaurs, and thus makes peace, leaving them alone for now. So yes, the Kingdom of Asturian, the Minotaur guys, used to be on the mainland, which is why their conflict happens so early in the game, usually. In 749 ALB, Grover I's mercenary garrison rebuffs raids by the Cossacks of the Zapzian host. Rather than conquer them, he offers them protection as an imperial march, provided they agree to his term. In 752 ALB, Jazergrad is sacked by Grover I's mercenaries. No, they weren't sacked by missionaries. That would be... These religious people are just like... Sacked. That's how I imagine the missionaries would do it. Man, I'm really... Mercenaries, missionaries, same thing, right? Grand Prince Frailspear is ousted by the population of Jezergrad, and they declare themselves a republic. Woo. In 773 AOB, the aging Emperor Gover I sends a small army to attack the parishes of Sycamion, which unite to repel his scouting forces. 2 years later, the parishes would form a proper decentralized federation so they could better face future threats from the north. In 783, Nova Griffonia is founded on northeastern Equus by the Griffonian Empire. It consists of various cultures, diverse Griffin settlements along the coast, which are for the first time united. Soon after, first inland expeditions began, marking the start of Nova Griffonian's expansion, and the melting pot culture of the colony forms. This is also part of the Equus section, but it's probably more important to this one than Equus, because, well, kinda, whatever. In 785 ALB, Grover II ascends to the throne after Grover I dies. The discreets of the Aquileia rebel one day after Grover II's coronation, expecting other kingdoms, duchies, and counties in the Griffonian Empire to follow their lead. However, the warlike Kaiser and his mighty imperial army crushes the discreet armies and burns down most of Aquileia. The king is deposed and sent as a gift to the Kaiser, who then proceeds to beat him to death. Peace returns, and Princess Gisela Discreet marries the Kaiser in the ruined temple of Curious in Aquileia. So yeah, he kinda shows why you shouldn't rebel against him. Mere days after Grover I's death, Nimbusia, then a significant regional power, invades the Griffonian host. The imperial nobles stop squabbling to repulse the attack. The offense of imperial land and subsequent punishment of Nimbusi helped to solidify Grover II as a strong leader. Emperor Grover II entrusts the idol of Boris to his brother, King Guto in Griffinstone, whose descendants guard it for many generations. Though, the idol of Boris obviously isn't still there by the time the game starts. Which the idol being gone is also canon to the show, but in 792 ALB, a slave revolt in Diamond Mountain results in a large number of ex-slave diamond dogs fleeing into the Griffonian Empire. Emperor Grover II grants them the mountain north of Griffinheim to the former slaves, in which it becomes known as the County of Bronzesail, which would prove to be a very smart thing, because the dogs are the most loyal of any of them to the king. Shoot, they're probably more loyal than what's left of his main land controlled by him. Those dogs are loyal to the emperor's cause, so him letting them into his land and giving them a shelter and letting them live gave basically the royal family an infinitely long, loyal vassal, friend, and guards. 799 ALB. Emperor Grover II wishes to secure supply routes to the east. He crushes Sycamion with a vast invasion force. The Federation is dismantled and Grand Duchy is found in its place. The locals would continue to resist the occupation. Next, he uses the might of the Imperial Navy to blockade Osterin and navally invade it. After a single engagement, the King of the Minotaurs declares the war to be impossible to end and surrenders. Grover II turns them into a puppet state, like he had done with Sycamion. In 802, Richograd invades Wittenland, or the River Republic invades Wittenland, capturing Coldstream but taking heavy losses. Many members of the princely family perish in this brutal siege of Highmane, where the invaders are repelled. 810 ALB. Grover II and the Archon of Victorius sanction the Knights of Hellquill, and they begin their eternal crusade against the Pony Menace. Grover II's campaign leads a trail of death and destruction in the Riverlands, which of course continue on to this day as the Nightly Over of Hellquill. In 814 ALB, the River Republic, or Reichigograd, at the time, becomes the River Republic. Oh, well, yeah, there we go. After Earless Grand Princess Softwetter perishes from battle wounds without having legitimate heir, leaving power to the Saber Parliament in her last will and testament. 854 ALB. Kaiser Grover II of Griffonia Empire dies in battle against Nimbusia, and Grover III ascends to the throne. He would be far more peaceful ruler than his warmongering predecessor, and later begins the imperial attempts to create a pan-Griffin identity, renaming many regions and vassal states. A large uprising in Sycamon motivates Grover III to grant them autonomy and abolish the Grand Duchy. The federal chapter of 773 is restored, albeit with many changes that expand emergency powers, and make Sycamon a far more militant nation. In 856 ALB, Prince Kihai di Kazao of the Principality of Broadfield, or the Kingdom of Broadfield today, rises to the thrones of the Principalities Skydia and Kivazian, uniting Prywin for the first time in its history. In 862, Kaiser Grover III, concerned with the growing power of Kihai, organizes his assassination. His plan is successful, Kihai is killed, and the Principality becomes disunited once more. Well, that didn't last long. In 898 ALB, long jump there, after destructive invasion by Grover II and continued raids from Hellquill, Longsword and Griffonia, the Treaty of Coldstream is signed between Jazzergrad, River Republic, Nembusia, Bakura, guaranteeing mutual defense in the event of a Griffin attack. Some years later, Wittenland, Deponia, Paniad joined the pack. In 914 ALB, Grover III of the Griffonian Empire dies, and Grover IV ascends to the throne. 934 ALB. In the Kingdom of Wingbardi, the Carabari secret society, leads by Garibaldi Giuseppe, successfully forced King Garibald Talani II to adopt a liberal constitutional government, making it the first Griffonian nation on Griffonia to do so. But the liberal movement was slowed when Galibi Ginzo, the Count of Gavor, was appointed Prime Minister of Wingbardi after the nation's first democratic election. 961 ALB. Kingdom of Wingbardi and Skyfall Trade Federation become the first fully industrialized nations on Griffonia. Other nations in western Griffonia follow soon after. 963 ALB. The Shirabri brothers managed to finally create a working prototype of self-flying aeroplane in Hersland. Other inventors soon improved their model, and the aircraft industry is born. Not long after the first flight, the Imperial military forms plans to adopt airplanes to support their winged infantry. 971 ALB. A Cyclops named Aramsby attacks Griffinstone, slays King Gudo IV, and steals the idol of Boris. It is said that the beast was sent by Mar himself. A Regency Council takes control of Griffinstone and are deadlocked on choosing new king. They refuse to acknowledge Prince Gudo VII as king due to his father's failure to protect the idol of Boris, being the Gudo dynasty having lost its divine right to rule Griffinstone. Woo! 972 ALB. After the assassination of King Grupro, Garibald Taloni III is crowned King of Wingbardi. Wingbardi succeeds from the Empire after accusing those close to the Emperor of covering up the assassination of King Umberto. The Kingdom of Alquilia sees its chance and declares independence, following Wingbardi's example. The Imperial Regency Council is unable to decide how to respond. 978 ALB. The Republican Revolution in Griffonian Empire takes place. The Republicans take control of the capital, throwing the entire nation into complete chaos. Archon Eris VII saves the young Grover V, while the Regency Council is lynched. 979 ALB. A counter-revolution is launched, and the Griffonian Republic comes to an end. Republicans flee in the long march north, and Grover V is returned back to the throne. However, the empire is utterly collapsed, and continent-wide economic hardship, turmoil, and chaos follows. Hermann Mayer and his allies seize the Imperial Air Force and flee to Hochland. The Skyfall Trade Federation becomes independent and seizes the Imperial Navy for themselves. The nobles who participated in the counter-revolution demand concessions from the Emperor. He rewards them extensive autonomy. The Empire's direct rule is now reduced to Griffinheim and the surrounding countryside. The Minotaurs of Austrian begin the Restoration War and overthrow their puppet king, liberating the archipelago and establishing a democratic government with Sycamia's support. However, they are unable to take their mainland states from the county of Sionesia. Many autonomous subjects of the empire take advantage of the chaos and formally declare independence. 980 ALB. Aquileia becomes a republic after a revolution. King Gerard Discreet is beheaded. Various subjects break free and declare independence, such as the county of Griffonia and Pomovera. Terran's countess is overthrown, but the local republic is annexed by the Count Francis V of county of Equestria. 981 ALB. The Duchy of Cloudbury is overthrown by the forces of Republican officer Alexander Kerimsky. After a brutal guerrilla war, the newly established Griffonian Republic consolidates power there, lynching the former nobility and the weak Duke Otto II. 982 ALB. King Tug the Boneless of Diamond Mountain dies, and his hardline and vengeful son, Rover Diamond Shield, inherits the throne. 985 ALB. The Discreet family regains the throne of Aquileia after a counter-revolution led by Albert Bertherat. The Reign of Terror begins. Aquileia becomes a very decentralized, with various realms ruled by relatives of the current king. War breaks out between the Falcar Principality and the Kingdom of Lingbardy. Both sides blame the other for starting the hostilities. Count Gabriel Bluecrest of Black Hollow declares independence from Griffinstone and breaks off from their ancestral liege. In 986 ALB, the Socialist Republic of Scandinavia is formed when Alexander Kerimsky of the Griffonia Republic suspends the constitution and cancels elections. These socialists move north and conquer parts of the northern tribes. In 987 ALB, Adilart breaks off from the county of Griffwald. In 989 ALB, Falcar and Wingbardy make peace. Falcar seizes its capital, and Wingbardy's economy is in tatters. Woo! Great war, you guys! Great war! 990 ALB. Count Gabriel Bluecrest of Black Hollow dies and is succeeded by his son, Count Callan Bluecrest, the father of Cyril Bluecrest. In 992 ALB, the Regency Council demands Count Satlin of Black Hollow to renew his oaths to Griffinstone. Upon his refusal, they invade. Prince Guto VII. If I'm saying all of these wrong, I don't care. I don't know my Roman numerals very well, and I'm not gonna look them up. So, oh well. Successfully convinces the Regency Council to let him lead the army, seeing it as a chance to restore his family's honor and convince them to let him take the crown. Prince Gudo VII dies fighting outside Merkbeek, extinguishing the cadet branch of the Grover dynasty. Griffinstone withdraws to lick his wounds. 995 ALB. The Great Famine occurs in Broadfield. A fifth of the population dies. The king and the nobles are accused of selling all the food abroad. Communist movements such as the GLA are founded and gain power. 999 ALB. Black Wednesday ruins the economy of New Maryland. 1001 ALB. Count Salon Bluecrest is slain by the former Republican turned notorious bandit Blackrock and is succeeded by his daughter, Cyrene Bluecrest. Blackrock successfully usurps control of most of Black Hollow, forcing the nobles to hide in their estates lest they meet the same fate as Count Bluecrest. A former teacher, currently politician by the name of River Swirl, wins the elections and becomes the Chancellor of the River Republic. 1005 ALB. Griffin Liberation Army, led by Philip Redglade, starts the Civil War in Kingdom Broadfield. 1006 ALB. Baron Vreckemer of the Barony of Lumar dies. He is succeeded by his son, Alarc Downbreaker. Ellie's Whitecrest rises to the throne of the Principality of Lucy. And in 1007 ALB, Equestria War begins. And that is the lore of the continent of Griffonia. If you enjoyed and are excited for the next and last one, and if you're excited to see more of my just normal Hearts of Iron 4 Equestria War content, and potentially more lore-like videos in the future, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell button. And as always, peace.